Well, it's high noon in New York. Time for what's good and entertaining. Right, all you beautiful girls out there? I didn't want to be the original 007. And I've said this story a dozen times, but I'm going to say it again. Because I have to be blunt, those silly queer hoovers follow me even into the bathroom. Wow. And, no, this is how it actually occurred. I would cash my checks at this corner grocery store. Now, grocery stores have just about anything you want. You know, it's just not groceries. So I'd go over there and I'd cash my check there. And if I had to write out a check, I'd write out a check there. And you have to show ID. Well, I would take out my wallet, as I'm doing now, you know, and I'm in theoretical mathematical physics is my main interest at that time, and expertise in what I have achieved, conferred with Einstein, and get right to the point. I don't have time to chit-chat, really, just true facts. And as I've proved, they'd say, what's your ID? Well, it's a little tougher for them to see, you know. And I'd show them my ID, and I say, it's S007, and they'd say, 007. Well, yeah, okay. And this would go on, you know, and I joke with them because they do a lot of work there with that groceries, you know, and I think they're told to go as fast as they can. Good golly, you know, if they had to hire another person to help them do it in a nice, smooth way. So after a while, I'd take up my ID, and just to talk with them, you know, they'd say, your ID, and I go, 007, and they'd say, 0079, and they'd say, 079. And I said, well, now look, you girls keep saying 00. O is a letter, like, oh my gosh. It's a number, 007, 9, etc. You know, 007. And they look at me and they say, oh, 07. Well, now, my daughter worked for the same company, but not at that store, at the next store, about a mile away. And so, if I was right there in that area, I wanted to see my daughter, don't live in my city, so I'd go in and say hi, you know, and of course joke around with her, and say, and she'd say, no, you're not going to take my groceries and put them in the bag. I'll do that. So, you know, I joke around with them. I joke around and say with my daughter, as I naturally would. And so there happened to be a girl from the store I usually go to, and it's diagonally from where I can see, and I can actually see the store. She said, oh, that's that flirt from our store. My daughter says, what? He's always joking with us girls. He says, that guy's just a big flirt. And my daughter says, no. Yeah, the reason he's joking around with you is because he jokes around. He said, and that's my father. Your father? Yeah, that's my father. So now when I went back to that store, and they'd say, what's your ID? I'd take it out and say, 007. And they look at you, oh, we know you. You're 007. So that's what they'd say all the time. I go in there and say, what's your ID? And I go, they say, well, we know you, you're 007. That's true fact. No. Hoover would like to have inside jokes of his power. Like, there was a program, they used to call me the man boy, because when I was young, I planned what I would do when I was 35, and that was to be a presidential candidate. I'm doing everything, building towards that. So they say, wow, young guy, he's thinking like he's 35, he's just a man boy. He wants to be this big man of our country and leader. So it got to where on TV, I use X all the time. X is the independent variable in mathematical physics. And I worked for Eastman Kodak in experimental development where I used a mimeograph machine. And I put together Xerox, the original work, concept, and even went to a patent attorney. But Hoover wanted me to work secretly for what he needed, not for even the country, or certainly what I wanted to do was to be a science tech working on the H-bomb, because I had called for a secret meeting saying I have proof that this is about 100 times more greater than Fermi's fission. We have fission fusion now. And it was agreed, and they have a Super Manhattan Project, and I insisted the sooner the better. So actually I was at the top secretly, but at the bottom as far as who Hoover liked, because I wanted Hoover out on moral grounds alone, let alone as far as real professional, global, as a global intelligent person. You understand? So there was this TV program. Joe, my real name was Joseph, birth name Joseph Castellano, and of course they call you Joe. And so there was a program, Joe Mannix, and I would use X, Xerox, Xerox, Joe Mannix. And this is what I could see after he would solve the crime, especially, it was a weekly program, was good. He had my height and build, about my age, and as he's walking away, usually, after near the end of the program, pictures of me, moving pictures of me and moving pictures of what I was seeing was, if not identical, was quite similar. You see, Hoover had inside jokes of his power. So he decided with the British, who he worked with, their intelligence, good and bad, especially against me it was bad, because I wanted Hoover out. He liked to show the power he had. So they started where they would have this science, all the science gadgets of international intrigue. So while if they had it here, and I'm complaining, and I actually got the materials of a sign to complain about my constitutional rights, what I've really done there for who I really am. So they said, well, if he puts about this 007, his ID is 007. You see, I'll move it forward there. It's 0079, etc. I now mentioned the 9. So he said, well, if it's not what he says, and he's willing to take a polygraph lie detector test to prove it, and at the beginning, and I actually would emphasize and did a little work for the voice stress analyzer, which was even, you could use, especially secretly, would prove. You put this on a boisterous analyzer, prove I'm saying the truth. So it isn't like it's just me saying it's something or a story. This is the real truth. So it got to where, well, we have it in England, and we'll cook something up where we put it like this is what it is. Well, if they falsified a report, because we had 50 votes, we needed 51 in the Senate. It's 100, it's 2 each state. You had 50, it was split even. But they needed 51. Well, if they get the report, then after the report, they convinced to get that one more vote, so now they could have war against Iraq. And the fellow there said, I got the troops there, he said, I got to use them. Well, as soon as they got the 51 votes, he says, well, now they invaded Iraq. Even though the greatest number of people all over the world protesting that the U.S. not go against the UN wishes and all these countries' wishes and the people especially of the world, they said, no, don't invade Iraq. You're taking that would demolish maybe the UN. Then what can you, if the UN says no, all the people of the world are saying don't invade Iraq, invade Iraq. They got reports. Well, now the report showed that they were falsified between the English intelligence and the U.S. intelligence. And the House of Commons on international TV proved that they falsified those reports. You see? Now, what I decided was that, yeah, it's 0079, and I've got to. I'm a real man. I say the truth. I don't lie and have other sons and daughters of people in the U.S. and other places get killed and kill a lot of people, and now these drones, they go there, well, there was a mistake. The photograph it was looking at, the camera and what they wanted to match, but it was a mistake. But that's only, they admit to 1/3. In other words, out of a dozen people killed, 4 of them are innocent, got nothing to do, innocent civilians, children and women and men. They admit to that. That means it's probably 50%. And there have been TVs that show that they hit completely 100%, have nothing to do with any kind of political argument. They just live in there. Then he went from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Now they say they can do it all over the world. What happened to what the people in the world wanted was peace. No. It's high noon in New York, and they would have what's of the news. Well, the big news right now is that if England, with its Navy, landed somewhere, that they're claiming it. They're doing that all over the world. They're an island. They're going to do anything, they need to build ships. And build ships and go around, and wherever they landed, say, well, yeah, we're doing this in the name of the king or the queen. You know, it's theirs now. Well, there's an island off of South America. It's closest to Argentina. It's all considered definitely part of South America, certainly not part of England, right? And they landed there and says, hey, it's quite a ways. We need a place where our ships and to have our ships land there and so forth. So it's theirs. Well, Argentina says, no, it's not yours. If it belongs to any country, it's ours. And England says, no. They took and killed. When the Argentines went there and jumped on the island and told the people, look, we're not here to kill anybody. This is really part of South America, and it's part of Argentina. Not even one person was injured. what did the Brits do? What did England do? They got the U.S. to use their satellites so they can keep track of everything. Went there, hired Gurkhas. They paid professional Gurkhas. They put a sword in their mouth. They're doped up, and they charge. And the Argentine soldiers told me we can shoot 4 or 5 times. Just keep coming. They're paid to do that. As he says, they took and came and tried to kill as many of us as they could. Just the opposite. No. They call it the Malvinas. They would call it the Falklands. It's not the Malvinas. No, they changed the name because it's the Falklands. It's part of England, named part of South America. Now you take then Ireland. Ireland is an island. They want their own country. But it is not all one country. They've got part that England says is part of their United Kingdom. Well, how could it be? They say, well, they vote they want to be Northern Ireland. Well, yeah, that's because you pushed out with your forces. At one time, they controlled all of Ireland, but then Ireland fought and got itself free to be its own country, except they got an area there that they held that they say, no, that's part of the United Kingdom. You say, well, they took a vote. They want to be Northern Ireland, part of England. Well, they got the big Navy and Army to keep that. Okay? Now, in Scotland saying, hey, we're getting disgusted with the English wars, and yeah, first thing you want to do is get all the Scottish that fought bravely with their bagpipes leading. The guy wasn't armed. He just have a bagpipe and walk out in front and say, here we come. Boy, that really takes bravery. You want all those Scots to do all your and for money. They'll give you money. Yeah, you'll send soldiers to Iraq or wherever. And so they're thinking of voting to be Scotland. And England says, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But now you take the U.S. closing bases. There's so much rackets going on, so much money, and so much in debt. That's another thing that amazes me, is how another country wants our paper money, because all we can do is just print it night and day. We need to do something, we'll print the money here, and they accept it, yeah. Well, they can buy an island. If I had the money it's really mine, which is billions, not millions, billions, I could buy a South Sea island and say, don't bother me. Because all they do is follow me around and try immoral, negative, they call games, gyrations. They're crazy. They got crackpots, really, that carry on Hoover's insane things he did. And Hoover was a psychotic, immoral, fiendish murderer. And I've got about 100 videos through the years. And they keep changing things around so that if somebody wants to see a video of mine, they got to start from every week now. Every week they say, you get a channel. What do you mean get a channel? I've had a channel once for years and they force me. And where are my videos? Well, they're in previous channels, that after a while I can't even obtain them. And they say, fill out a form. I fill out a form, they say, no, well, we decided we're not going to accept any form. I said, what do you mean? You've been doing that. No, you can't call them, you can't, nothing you can do. They got your videos. They say, well, we threw them away. No, you can't. Because they have to keep those videos for 27 years. That's the law. But they don't mention that. They say, oh, especially after 3 years or something, they say, oh, no, we don't have those videos anymore. And that's the way they do things. Now, as far as the news then today, is that we close bases. We have to close the bases. The economy is bad. When they close a base, that town is bankrupt. Understand that. If you're a city of even 300,000, that's pretty big. If they have a base there, that base holds that economy together. If they close that base overnight, everything goes just like a crash of 29. Everything is in bad shape. Detroit, that we got our automobiles from Japan, and Detroit now is like they say is a bankrupt city or something. It's just that's a true fact. Even though we absolutely need a base, we'll say, in an area where we can dock our ships and so forth, they will not give back that Guantanamo to Cuba. They will not give it back, no matter what it costs. They even got now where they know they don't need it, but they use it as a experimental prison, or a prison that now everybody's realizing what the heck's going on. That's because that's what they're doing. Well, they say, well, we pay Cuba for that base. That was what, 200 years ago or 150 years ago? And whatever your political stripe, the fact is, see, they don't mention it. The fact is that Fidel Castro, when he took over, he took and closed the casinos and put schools there for the kids. Now, that's what he did. And then he refused to accept any checks. They give him the checks, he wouldn't cash them. All these years, yeah. As far as I know, he hasn't cashed one check. They don't say that. Why? He says, that's part of Cuba. That ain't, we made an agreement with, you made an agreement with a government years ago, and now this is our government, our island. No, Cuba is part of the U.S. That's part of it. Now, we get to where they say, well, certain areas of Spain and certain areas of France there, they've got a little, I forget the name, but it's a separate country, some little, like, land island of people. No, they get to where they have a vote in the Ukraine. This was a actual vote by U.S. is there and everybody's there, and they get the majority of the vote. Now economy is kind of rough. Greece and all those countries they're all in austerity. I don't know how, if there's if like in Greece and you have 20% unemployment, they're bankrupt. We need help. Well, we'll give you help if you do a certain thing. They say, yeah, but by doing that certain thing, we're being debt all the time. That's like our students in the U.S. You want to go to school and get a better job? Yeah. Go to school. Well, we can't. Well, we'll give you money to go to school. Yeah, your money to go to school, you got to pay them back. The thing is, whether if you don't pay them back, they start charging you interest. Now, since I've been on this internet saying that that's the same thing the British did when we started to argue with them about debtor's prison. You got all the youth indebted. They can't pay those loans if there isn't work. Well, you don't have to pay the loan, but you got to pay the interest. Well, yeah, I'm sure you can pay interest the rest of your life, but still owe them the original money. When you get a job, you got to start paying them from that, and everything rises in costs. Yeah, I could buy a home in my city for $25,000 about 45 years ago. for $25,000. That same home today costs $400,000. $400,000. The cost of interest. You get a bank loan, yeah, after you put all your money you got to get the down payment. You get a bank loan, the interest you have to pay on $400,000, you'll never be able to pay for it in your lifetime. So it's like you renting from the bank this home that's supposed to be yours. The only thing you can do is hope that the market goes up, and then you'll take and sell it and get all of your money, some of your money back, especially like the down payment, so you can move to a better home or another home if you have to move. But if the market is the same, you're going to, of course, cost you all that money. You just took and kept working and paying the bank. If it goes down, no, you're bankrupt. Now you can lose the home. You can lose the down payment, which is 10%, I think. 10%, you got to have about $40,000 for a good home today. More than it costs for the entire home cash when I was a younger man. You understand? These are the true facts. Now, we need somebody up there that does things right. And I was going to try to do that when I started to be 35. But Uber said if he gets into power, the first thing he'll do is fire me and bring me to court for my crimes. You understand? So, naturally, they're not going to let people know who I am and what I've done. What could I do? Well, I've gone to other countries, and every time what happens is that I think even before I get there, they work out some deal saying, hey, he's a troublemaker. What do you mean a troublemaker? I'm there because I've done more or as much as for my country as anybody. But yet they turned it the other way around. They have me, I have to work real hard and save every dime and have just enough to get there. And just one time I came back, I only had 5 cents left in my pocket. Another time I came back, before, I forget what it was. I was stuck. And I said, well, I've got this card. He looked at it and he says, well, I'll accept it. I was able to get back. Understand? So these other countries, that's what I found out. They go for money first. Unless you talk to the top person, but you can't talk to the top person. You've got to talk to those who then talk to somebody else, and then who talk to somebody else, who then maybe you can talk to the top person. You can't just walk in there and say, I want to talk to the top person. The closest I came was in Argentina, because 90% of them are Italian descent, and I'm Italian descent. They speak Spanish, but all the sports clubs, they'll speak Italian. So I can speak their language for more than one reason. Is that they say they don't speak Spanish. They say they speak Castellano. Well, that's the same spelling as my last name. And I said, well, I like this place. Everybody speaks my language. So I got to know some of the good people there, and well, when I first got there, they threw me in jail. They says, no, you're an American spy. I said, look, I'm a scientist and inventor. I helped them. And I says, look, we're going to keep going round and round unless you get somebody that really knows English and knows science. Not that doesn't know English and doesn't know science. Because if I talk to you in English, you really don't understand. Or you say you don't understand. And if I talk about science, you don't know what I'm talking about. So they took for me the actual president's interpreter. When the president would come to the United States, his interpreter, or when he traveled, his interpreter, and I had a long back and forth, he's checking out. And he finally said, well, they don't understand the science, of course, he says, but he said, and like you say, my English is better than yours, he says, but I studied English for many years to be an interpreter. He said, and I understand what you're saying is that Hoover has so much power, he even has power outside of the U.S. He said, well, Hoover was in power so long that he could do just about anything. So we don't say it, but he was the power behind having President Kennedy assassinated. So I said, well, can I now go to your best science research center and talk to him about maybe working there? He says, I'll say you can go anywhere in Argentina that I authorize that. Yeah, you can. But when I go to places that speak Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, I can understand some of it, and it's similar to Italian, but I have to say, talk real slow. But most of them know English, so they take, these are government people, from the day I land until the day I leave, all they want is money under the table of the U.S. dollar. No. Anytime, anywhere, any group can say they're corrupt government. Because it's human nature. Times are, even if times aren't bad, but times are such that if you can make a few extra dollars, you'll take that few extra dollars. Understand? So you have now where they have a vote checked by all the world's people in the UN, and they have a legitimate government in the Ukraine. Now, Ukraine used to be part of Russia. Then it became Ukraine. Then it became part of Russia again. Now it's the Ukraine again. Now, the Ukraine is where the people speak. And when Russia was there, they built schools there that educated all those Ukrainian people where they became doctors, lawyers, and so forth. Real good. But their business is with Russia. How they trade, their language. A lot of people from Russia go there because it's warmer, especially in the southern part. And that's the only seaport. But we don't want Russia to have access to warm water port. One of the main reasons we went to Afghanistan. Anything where they could get to a warm water port. So naturally, when Ukraine was part of Russia, they built a big naval base there. Now we're saying, no, they can't say that the people there are 80%, or I don't know, 60 to 80%, but it's definitely majority, are actually Russian. Not Ukrainian, they're actually Russian. They're Russian, they speak Russian, you know, their commerce, their trade, their seaport is actually part of when they were there for years. That's actually, the people there now say, well, we don't want to belong to the neo-Nazis that physically took over a legitimate government. We don't want them to take over us. No, we'd rather be independent. Well, they can't. They're too small, too weak. Those gangsters would take over. Those neo-Nazis would take them over, which they're trying to do now, especially because there's going to be a vote this Sunday, where I am, that would be the day after tomorrow. So they're going all out, doing all things to not have that vote or disrupt it. They're saying, no, they can't do that. Ireland can vote, the Falklands can vote, Ireland can vote, other places can vote. They had a legitimate government there by vote. They say, no, no, that don't count now. It's us. We took it over by force. And we want to take over by force all of what we say is part of the Ukraine. They say, well, wait a minute. No, we're Russian people. We speak Russian. The economy has been bad. So the European country says, well, we'll try to help you out. We'll try to help you out. And they're thinking about it. But the people in Europe are saying, how can you help them out when they're like part of Russia? Why don't you help us out? That you say austerity. And I said, this austerity is kind of like when they have our students now in debtor's prison. You'll never pay it off. You always will owe them. Well, you take and lay off 10,000 public servants all over the country, and you save that money with austerity. Well, okay, I agree. You tried that. I think it was 3,000. They fired 3,000 civil servants to have austerity to get the loan. Well, when you fire 3,000 people and put them unemployed, and these are good people, educated and so forth, that had a steady job, civil service job, when you fire them, what are they going to do? There's people unemployed that'll work for less money. Well, the unemployment now is really bankrupt. Well, that's what they were offering the Ukraine. And Russia said, look, we'll give you billions so your economy will be good. It'll be better than Western Europe. Well, all right, they're going to accept that. Well, now, the George Patton militarists, and those that want to have them with a warm water port, said if they go with Russia, that will give them a warm water port and will make it where we can get on their border somebody that we can put our missiles and what we want against them. So they're saying, you can't do that. Well, the people want to vote. No, if you vote, no, we'll give you we'll take sanctions against you. Wait a minute. The legitimate government you replaced by force, this is the people now that was voted by votes. These people now want to vote, and you say, yeah, the Northern Ireland, they vote. That's part of England. And it isn't part of England. It's part of the Ireland. But you have the force to hold on to it. Now these people want to vote and then say, yeah, this is what we want. You say, no, you won't do that. You can't do that. So in Cuba, we're going to have a base there where we have horrible prison now is about the only thing we use it for, because and not close it down and spend all that money on purpose just so that we can have that part of Cuba. But for Russian people living in this area for centuries, for years, to have an economy that is based with Russia where they cannot be bankrupt like Greece, they're saying no. The Falkland Islands, thousands of miles away, they took a vote. Well, there was nobody left there that was of Argentina, so naturally they voted to be part of England. I say, well, they voted. Now these people, in order to have their economy sensibly, better, the whole thing would have been all good if they would have said, yeah, we'll accept Russia's money and keep this legitimate government. Next time there's election, take a vote and see who wins. Right? No, they wouldn't wait, because then the same people would have a better economy and would win again. So they forcibly took the country over. That's the situation. You understand? Now, why I'm speaking up, and I thought I'd do this in certainly 30 minutes, because it is that critical. Why I'm speaking up is because a month ago, I used the term smelled. I smelled an inside power play where they would like to get small nuclear bombs on the border of Russia. And then, if push comes to shove, it wouldn't be Western European countries, it would be Ukrainians against Russia. And I said, well, I can't say that because that's really dangerous type of war. Today they announced it by Western European and U.S. announcements that they are talking about nuclear war. Who's talking about nuclear war? The last I heard was the Zionists in Israel. They refuse to sign anything that says they have a restriction on what they can do with their nuclear, the weapons of mass destruction. They get up and walk out. Well, the U.S. will veto anything that the Zionists want in Israel, so they keep doing what they want. They have then where the Zionists can use a nuclear weapon because they haven't signed anything, and that's what they're going to do. They'll have them in the Ukraine, where the Ukraine will be a wild cannon of these neo-Nazis. It isn't like they're right out of Germany and right out of the military. They're just a loose cannon there, that they can do what they want. This neo-Nazis. And the Zionists are shrewd. They play the ethnic card on both sides. When it's for them, hey, you're doing bad. But when it's even with neo-Nazis, well, that's what the U.S. wants, and that's who gives us the most money and power and backs us. You see? So what's going on now is an inside power play that is really dangerous. Greater than any I've known. And I remember started by proving that there was an H-bomb at least 100 times greater than an A-bomb. And we had to say, look, we are humans. We have to save this planet. We can't have a loose cannon like Israel saying we do what we want to. Because then all the Arabs will say we were doing what we want to. And look what a mess that is. Now you can get a worse mess in the Ukraine. The solution was what Putin said. We help you, you get a good economy, and you keep doing your trade with us. And if anybody invades you, we'll protect you. No. They want what's their way in Northern Ireland. If they vote, it's theirs. If it's thousands of miles away in an island, it's theirs. If it's somewhere a little enclave in Europe, it's theirs. Well, let's vote a legitimate government. What about you? If you want a legitimate government, then you will, those neo-Nazis, they have the government back that was there, a legitimate government, then it's all under that legitimate government. Otherwise, no. My opinion is their talk like they did to the Indian chiefs. When they wanted a certain land, they would have a powwow with the Indian chiefs and say, our chief of Washington says, we are going to move you to an area and help you. Well, why? Well, they found gold on that reservation. So by force, hook or crook, they would move the Indians off of that. And at times I'm like the old Indian chief. I say, look, the Xerox, identification of electromagnetic radiation, the laser beams. I stand there and like I'm old Indian chief. That's all really mine. But now they say none of it's mine. And I even have to pay to use my Xerox. How clever, how fiendish. Yeah? I have to pay. Because I didn't invent the Xerox. I didn't go to a patent attorney and argue for it and so forth. Say it was somebody else. These are the true facts. Israel should just be 12 tribes or one little nation of peace, not splitting the Arabs if they really want to live in peace, not the Zionist expansion and warmongering, especially backed by the U.S. The Ukraine, they have to be under that legitimate government. If not under that legitimate government, all the people don't want to be under that legitimate government, north, south, east, west, have the right to say we don't want to be under those neo-Nazis because they are talking dangerous. They are greater dangerous, in my opinion, than, of course, now I'm a senior citizen. As I think back, there's more danger now I see now that at any time. So those people in the Crimea, it's critical for them to say this is who we are and this is who we're going to be. That's just my opinion. Now, as far as that's the news, but as far as like smile and entertainment, yeah, I had Andre Bocelli this morning and Ave Maria. And I always say, if you beautiful girls haven't, and this is to everybody as far as the news, but as far as, now I'm 009, because 0079, I actually can prove. See, I have to, I'm a real man, plus it was 0079. See, that's my inside of where I say, well, when push comes to shove, I can prove who I am, what I say. You put on voice analyzer, of course, absolute true facts. So, what? You take and put 3 names of 3 top male vocalists you'd like to hear, and they'll come up. And you put a list of songs they sing, and you'll have about 300 songs, and you look through there, and you can pick out any song for any day, any time, and it'll be definitely worth your time as you even do something to hear these great vocals, you know, like Ezio Pinza, and I always say Ezio Pinza in South Pacific, because I actually wrote and tried to see about buying a little island nobody had there, nobody lives there, unclaimed. And, well, excuse me, I'll try to get this done as quick as I can, but I'm going to say this, in my opinion, it's humorous. Finally, somebody wrote back and said, well, the money you have, I have an island for you. I said, okay, send me a picture, but make it truthful, of course. They sent me a picture, and here's this man with his wife, I think 3 children, and they're sitting in front of their like little wooden cabin, and there's water. They're on their ground floor is like the 3rd step, and he's sitting on the 2nd step, and there's water below on his feet, like. And he said, well, they told me that it'll be illegal unless I tell you what the real truth is. If you buy the island, the government would have to force me to give you the money back. He says, I'm telling you what we have here. He says, the water has risen, and now I don't have enough room on my island to farm for my family. So I need to sell this as a down payment to get a bigger island or a bigger area so I can farm for my family. So you can buy this island for the little money you have, but this is the condition. And it's true. If I was alone on that island, and they say no man's alone, you know, if I was alone on that island, yeah, but I said to myself, that's where it is now. The water rises a little more. Hey, I don't mind just reaching out, and as a fish swims by, I scoop them up in a frying pan and say, okay. That's a true story. So I don't know about this weather. You know, they say about the weather, but all I know is for thousands of years, they got blue ice up in the North Pole. And now this blue ice is falling into the ocean, which it hasn't done for centuries. I don't, now either the island's sinking or the water is rising. Or, you understand? So that's the news, and I hope I've enlightened you as to the true facts which you deserve to know. And as far then as a smile and a song, yeah, get those great vocalists with their great songs and practice safety and, of course, have fun. And any suggestions, I, of course, say thank you.